Welcome back to Open Line. Talking with Dr. Shawn Joseph, Director of Metro Schools. Taking your calls now. Just anything you want to ask about Metro Schools. Let's go to Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, go right ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Two questions, actually, regarding violence in schools. Okay, so the first one is, with increased gang violence and juvenile homicide rates, are there programs that address these issues? And the second question, how are we ensuring we don't experience an incident like Sandy Hook or Columbine? And I'll just hang up and let you respond. Thank you.
All right, thanks. So those are two different issues, but let's start with violence, gangs, discipline problems, that kind of thing in schools. Kind of where do we stand there?
Yeah, you know, safety is one of our primary, it's one of our primary responsibilities, and it's something we're very concerned about. Actually, as I look into this year's budget and my priorities really focus on ensuring that our schools are safe and ensuring that we are providing the right supports to kids. We've not had a spike in school violence, but our, we are suspending way too many kids for bad behaviors. In general, and I think one of the things we're putting a huge emphasis on in collaboration with a number of city offices is how do we go about preventing kids from getting into gangs, and we believe the solution to that is having more opportunities in school for them to be engaged and active in our athletics, in our music programs, and our arts programs. We know we need to expand them, and one of the challenges we have, we don't provide busing, for example, for after school activities within the district. So you got lots of kids get home early and get into stuff, and then that stuff carries back over into the schools. So as I'm looking at this particular budget this year, I'm really looking at those kind of support services that can keep kids engaged and keep them from dealing with issues. But suspensions have been going down in the district, I think, over the past 2 years, but there's still too much violence, and there are issues. When you have communities that have challenges, that those challenges do trickle into the schools. And
the schools reflect the communities.
Right.
So you think suspensions are too high, but then there might be some teachers who are like, I have this problem student in my class, I don't know what to do, and so it's kind of a tough thing.
Right. The one thing I don't do is I don't tell our schools not to suspend a student who needs to be suspended. The numbers will be what they'll be. I think we have to look at putting resources into preventing the numbers, but if a student needs, demonstrates that they shouldn't be in a school, they shouldn't be there, and we need to address that and take it seriously.
His other question is about the violence on a different level. Someone coming in to a school with a weapon that we've seen around the country. You probably can't talk a lot about what you're doing, but how do you feel we are prepared as far as something like that goes? Yeah,
well, we have clear crisis preparedness training within the school district. I mean, we require schools to practice scenarios. What would happen if. Most of our schools have a security system where you can't get into the school without getting buzzed. Well, all of our schools, you can't get in unless you're buzzed in. And many of our schools, even when you're buzzed in, you must go through the main office so we can track who's getting in and out of our schools. But the best way to deal with those situations is to prepare for it, and we require drills to make sure we're constantly preparing. But again, if it does happen, there's not a lot you can do. The good news is in Metro Nashville Public Schools, we do have armed police officers in all of our high schools and in our middle schools. They did that years ago, and what I hear, that was a result of a student bringing a weapon into a building years ago. At the elementary school, we don't have police officers in those schools, but the police officers at the middle schools and high schools will respond to elementary needs as needed.
Wow. All right, let's go to Chris. Hello, Chris.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry?
What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
So I have a senior at Antioch High School, and around Thanksgiving, she brought it to my attention that she had found some black mold in some couple places in the school, as well as massive holes in the ceiling. This was obviously the reason for her headaches in class. So I decided to call up at the school and ask to speak to Kiva Wiley, and obviously I wasn't put through, which is fine. I know she's busy. However, whoever I was speaking to basically demanded to know what my name was and what my child's name was, which really is neither here nor there. The concern is the concern. So I really wanted her to just call me back so I could speak to her and find out what her thoughts on trying to clear this situation up. And never got a call back, so I called up there again. And again, I was asked what my child's name was and what my name was, and I kind of got the sense that if I didn't give the information up, the situation would not be cleared up. Here it is at the beginning of the year, and I asked my child, has the mold been removed? And she said, no, Mom, it hasn't. And I said, well, what about the holes in the ceiling? And she said, no. She said, in fact, they're building onto the school, and they're not even taking care of these problems.
All right, so you're talking about, I guess, upkeep, repairs. She's talking about mold, that kind of thing.
Yeah, two things.
I could understand a principal would want to know the name of somebody calling just to make sure it's a student, but I'll let you respond to that. What do you think?
Two things. I mean, Antioch High School is one of our largest high schools. Had about 2,300 students. I will follow up tomorrow and check on the mold issue. If you just maybe send an email to directorofschools@mmps.org, I can make sure I follow up with you on that, and we can check out the specifics. You know, we have environmental specialists within the district because mold, it can be very harmful, and we don't want it in our schools. And a lot of times, particularly when a school is under construction, you know, if water and things come in, there is that potential. So if we're aware of mold, we will jump on it because it can become a serious situation that we don't want. But we do have people within the district that can, you know, clean that up and check that out. And there have been a couple issues. There've been a couple of issues with mold since I've been in the district, and we have, you know, worked to clean it up once we are aware that it happens.
Overall, what would you say? I guess the condition is of the schools. They're older buildings in some cases. How difficult is it to maintain them? The cost that goes into that. You know, where do you think we stand?
Yeah, I mean, overall, our buildings are in pretty decent shape. We have a very large capital improvement budget, though. I mean, there's lots of work that needs to continually be, worked, on with the issues. So it's but overall, I mean, our buildings are. Like, you know, we had this weather, you know, the cold that recently came. You know, I looked around the country and saw many places where, you know, chillers were going down and kids were, you know, in schools with jackets, and it was a crisis. Some school systems actually closed down. You know, we were in decent shape. I mean, we had issues, but we were able to resolve those issues quickly. You know, it's very expensive to keep the buildings state of the art, and we're not there. You know, I don't want to say that we are in any stretch of the imagination. You know, with our capital improvement budget, we're required to not only build new buildings, fix buildings, but we also use those funds for our technology needs within the district. And you know, there is huge variance within the district between our schools that have the most technology and our schools that have the least technology, and we're working hard to identify those issues and come up with a long-term plan to work on them. But overall, I mean, we've got some great people on our maintenance team and our building services team that work, you know, day and night to keep our buildings up and running. So again, I'm very interested in this mold issue, if there's one at Antioch, for us to check it out. And again, if you email me or call the office, I can follow up. But again, I agree. Most principals will not want to know who they're checking with. I mean, even with me, if someone calls to ask to speak to me, they usually try to figure out the nature of the situation and work it through. But we'll solve that problem if there's a problem there, I promise.
You're probably working on the budget for next year.
Yeah.
Part of that would be capital improvement. Mm-hmm. Dreaming big. What are some of the things you'd like to see? Mm-hmm. Beyond just, you know, upkeep, as far as, you know, additions? Do you have some new schools, that kind of thing? Do you have some goals, some dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see us really tackle technology within our buildings. Again, we've got some buildings that are very technologically equipped, and we have other buildings that have very limited technology within the district. So both the infrastructure and capacity and the actual technology, in folks' hands, I would love to see. Also, you know, you want to make sure that the heaters and the chillers and all of those things are upkeep. I mean, just the basics. It's just very expensive when they go down. So you want to make sure they're up and right. I mean, when we look at some parts of our county, we have lots of over enrollment. You know, and you know, so continuously thinking about where we're putting new buildings to reduce the pressure on those buildings is something that's important that we constantly look at. We're going to be presenting the capital improvement plan, I believe, at the next board meeting. They'll introduce it to the public, and you'll see we pay attention to the upkeep of every building, and we have a rating system to help us determine which ones go first, second, third, so forth. So.
Interesting. We're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. If you want to call in, there's the number. 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.